Hi, everyone. I'm Sam Wilson Jr., and this is the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast, the music podcast on where I interview singers and musicians from genres of black music, gospel, jazz, blues, old school classic soul, old school hip hop, today's hip hop and R&B, Caribbean, Latin, Afrobeat, Afro-Latina, blue-eyed soul, disco, go-go, line dances, and the Lost 45s. So come with me as I take you on to a trip to the destination genre of black music right now on the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. Legal Shield is a proud sponsor of the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. Have you been involved in any types of accidents? Have you been a victim of identity theft? Have you been a victim of a computer fraud scam? Have you been in disputes with your tenants or landlords? If your loved one dies and they didn't write up a will for you or for your family, or you and your spouse are filing for divorce, or if you need help by opening up your small business, give Legal Shield a try. Visit their website at LegalShield.com and tell them you heard it here on the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. Do it today. You'll be glad you did. Welcome to the Black Soul Music Experience. I'm Sam Wilson Jr., and I have a special guest on my show, and we are celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, and it's a CBS reunion. And this lady that I'm about to introduce is my friend and colleague, my former CBS co-worker. She worked as an account executive for WCBS Newsradio 880. I have been delivering packages to her, and yes, having calls from her for any stuff going out or something coming back in for many years, back in the early 90s. And when WCBS News Radio 880 had moved to the broadcast center, and yes, there have been some changes and everything. So I'm going to be asking her what is she's doing today. So please help me welcome to the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast an account executive, a mother of 2 boys and 1 daughter, a loving wife who's been married for 32 years, and she's still looking good at the ripe old age of 55. Her name is Sylvia Herrera. Hi, Sylvia. How are you?
Hi, Sam. What an intro.
Thank you.
To be my hype man on any meeting. Love
Thank
that.
you. Yeah, thank you so much. Welcome to my podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Pleasure
And
to be here,
I've been
Sam.
keeping in touch with some of the CBS co-workers who have worked at not only at News Radio 880, but also when CBS had records. And even though it was sold to Sony back in 1987, I didn't come on board until I became a CBS employee in 1989 of
Wow.
July.
I didn't realize that.
So
Wow, that's awesome.
I have been working at CBS, which is now Viacom CBS Paramount,
Yep.
now Paramount Skydance Media for 35 years at the main office, Black Rock headquarters, in the mailroom as a mail clerk, then messenger, then moved to messenger dispatcher. And I've been there for all the news events.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
been there since the first attack of the World Trade Center. I've been there when we heard the beating of Rodney King. There was some youth getting ready to start marching. I've been there when I heard the news that 4 LA cops were found not guilty that started the LA riots. I've been there when the Twin Towers had fell down. And I've been hearing on the news a lot. And then my late mother called me that one of our own was one of the casualties in D.C. And yes, I've been there during the economy going up and down. I've been there when we had our first African-American mayor of the NYC. I've been there since we had our first African-American president of the United States. I've been there since during the pandemic. And yes, I was exposed to COVID, but didn't rush to the hospital like so many of our family members and our CBS co-workers. I've been there since the death of George Floyd that sparkled the Black Lives Matter movement. So I've been around. So when news breaks, we all get to be informed. So again, thank you so much for being here. And we're going to have a wonderful conversation and all
Love
of our
it. Love
days
it.
at
Love catching
CBS.
up with you.
All righty. So let us begin, shall we? Now, where were you born?
I was born here in New York City. I was actually born at New York Presbyterian up on 168th Street in Washington Heights.
Ah, Washington
So I
Heights.
am a native New
Yes.
Yorker, for sure.
Oh, okay. So I'm originally from the village of Harlem in New
Oh,
York
not too
City.
far. Not too far.
Yes. So I was moved to the Bronx in 1969 after my parents were divorced in the summer of
Got it.
1969, and then moved back to Harlem in the spring of 1972. Me and mom, we were staying with her friends. We had lived in the projects for a while. And
Mm,
then by the end of 72, we moved back to the Bronx. We had lived in the Wakefield section going towards Westchester County near
okay.
the Bronx River Parkway. So I've been living in the Bronx for 55 years and I've been moved
Nice.
around the Bronx for those
Very cool.
55
Yes, the
years.
running joke at CBS, especially with the traffic department, was they always thought I lived in the Bronx because I was Spanish, but I actually lived in Manhattan. So was always confused for living in the Bronx, but I never lived in the Bronx, but obviously had many friends that lived there. So
Now, were your parents or your family relatives were in the media or did they had 9 to 5 day jobs?
oh, they had 9 to 5 day jobs. I don't think media was a consideration for anybody even remotely related to me or friend with me. Like it wasn't something that we even thought was a possibility. We were kids of immigrants, so working in media was probably not even a thought in our minds, actually.
Now, which high school did you go to?
I went to Aquinas High School in the Bronx, so that was the time that I was in the Bronx. I went to Aquinas High School, which was an all-girls school at the time. It no longer exists, but I went there because my sister went there, and I absolutely loved it. And then when I graduated, I went to Pace University downtown by the former World Trade Center. And again, just was a city kid. I commuted to school. I did not go away to college. And so was very much centered in New York City.
I was about to ask you the next question, but you already answered it.
I saw that. I saw that. Sorry.
Yes. And what was your major in college?
I majored in business management. I really didn't know what I wanted to do when I went to college. And so I thought by doing business management, it would kind of expose me to a broad subject matter that I could kind of utilize in a bunch of different capacities, and was really kind of trying to figure it out while I was there.
Now, who did you want it to be when you grow up?
If I'm completely honest, I was a kid that grew up on TV. TV was my babysitter. I was the youngest of four kids, and the age gap between my three older siblings and myself was pretty big. My sister and I were 7 years apart. My brother's 10 and 11 years apart from me. So I very much grew up in front of the TV. And watching TV, I kind of grew into a pop culture junkie, which, if you ask anybody today, like if you want to know something useless about what's happening in the culture, I'm your girl because I will probably know it. But watching TV growing up, I used to love watching Entertainment Tonight on Channel 2, coincidentally. And I absolutely loved Mary Hart. I loved watching her on Entertainment Tonight. I loved her job. And so if you asked me back in the day, I would have said, I want to be her.
Yes, well, same thing here. I grew up watching all the networks.
Yeah,
So
that's what we used to
when
do. That was our babysitter, right?
yeah, that was our babysitter. So I've been dropped off at my maternal grandparents' house in the Bronx. They're originally from Virginia. So
Ah,
they be watching CBS all day on Monday. So you had the morning news
yep.
and then Captain Kangaroo, and then you
Captain
had the
Kangaroo. Oh my
reruns,
gosh.
and then you had the game shows, and then 11:30.
Yeah.
Oh my
Price is
goodness.
Right. Grew up on that
Yep.
too. Yeah,
And then
that was our
mm,
babysitter as our parents went to go to work, right? Like we had to keep
yep.
busy when we were back in school, from home
hmm
from school. So yeah.
Yeah, and then by 11:30, them soaps. Ugh,
Ah,
the love of life.
I was more of a
Search for
Channel 7
tomorrow.
soap girl. I was never into the Channel 2 soap operas or Channel 4. It was always Channel, num 7, WABC.
Yeah, so when CBS had all them soaps and Douglas that was, and then more soaps, and then at 1 o'clock, time for a
Yes.
local station break. 1:30, more soaps, and then more
Yup.
game shows,
They
and
still have
then
some of those. They haven't all gone away, so that's pretty interesting.
yeah, and then by 4:30, Mike Douglas, and then
Yes,
six
the talk
o'clock
shows.
had the news with Jim Jensen and Rollin Smith, and then at 7 o'clock, Walter Cronkite, and all the prime time on CBS, and then the next day they'd be watching NBC, which you had
Yep.
the Today Show, and then Not for Women Only with Barbara Walters before she moved to ABC, and then all the game
Hmm.
shows and the news update and all the soaps, and then they had the movie on NBC4. Then they had the
Yeah.
news with you don't even know who was the anchors until Chuck Scarborough came along in 1974, and
Yes.
then the
Talk
nightly
about somebody else that
news.
hasn't aged. He's kept
Yeah,
himself very much, similar to when he started. It was like, wow, Chuck
yes,
Scarborough, such a part of our lives, right? Like this was probably the height of TV, right? Like peak TV, if you will.
yeah, and then ABC. You mentioned they didn't have Good Morning America until 1975, but then you had
Mm,
some of the local shows, and then the movie, and then some of the game shows, and the soaps, and then the 4:30 movie, and then
yes, I
Eyewitness
remember all that.
News with Roger Grimsby, Bill Buell, plus Bruce King, Stormfield, and the Eyewitness News team.
Oh,
Now,
good memory. Good memory.
my late mother watches Eyewitness News religiously.
Yeah,
Why?
no, people were
Because
loyal
you
to
had
it.
because you had a diversity of news reporters.
Yeah.
So you had everybody that looked like us. You
Yes.
had Gil Noble and Melba Tolliver and Geraldo Rivera and Katie Tong, and then
Yes.
that
Very
paved the
good
way
memory,
for
Sam. Wow.
other people of color. So
Yes,
that's what it
which was
was,
really
a
nice
di-
at that time, right?
a
To see somebody that
representation
looked like
of
us.
us that
Yeah.
looked like us who report the news every single night. So I wanted to look at my cartoons. I said, I can't look at the cartoons for 1 minute.
Oh, you gotta look at the news.
I had to wait until Saturday to look up and watch the
Yes, Saturday
cartoons.
morning you wake up, get your cereal, watch your cartoons.
Yeah. Now, were you good in math?
Um, yes. I wasn't great in math, but I was a good student, so I did do well in math pretty much through high school. It was when I got to college, when it got a little bit more advanced, that math became kind of a tough subject for me. But I did do well in math, but I had more of a leaning towards English and reading versus the math portion of higher education.
Yeah. Well, same thing here. I was good in math, but not that good in math when you had to do those word problems.
Yes, or
It's
when it
like
got to
saying
like
if Jane went to the store and bought a box of
yes.
soap powder for $1.79, how much change should she get back? And I was not good at word problems. You be up all night at 1 o'clock in the morning trying to figure
Yeah,
out the
no,
answer.
definitely. It did not come easy to me if that's your question. No, I had to work really hard to try to even get half as good as math, but
Yes.
um but I was decent.
Now, was being an account executive your calling?
Absolutely not. I had even no idea that that job existed. Well, I started off at CBS as an assistant, And the way I landed there is once I graduated, I started looking for a job. And back then, the New York Times help wanted ads was like a pivotal search engine. And so I went on there to look for job openings, and I found one that was speaking about, like, hey, if you want a career in media and, be exposed to exciting opportunities, it sounded like it was going to be interesting. So I answered the ad, not realizing that it was a headhunter. Um, and the woman that I met with actually happened to be good friends with Robin Sloan, who at the time was the general sales manager for CBS 880. And so she told me about this opening for an assistant that I would be supporting two account executives and one national sales manager. And again, I never thought of the back end of media, even though I was obviously exposed to media in general. But at that point, I really didn't know what I was going to do. So I said yes, and probably the best decision I ever made. And so, yeah, I went to the interview and learned about this role and what the sales team does. And while sales was not something that I wanted to necessarily pursue, because for me, sales meant that door-to-door salesman that was going on and, knocking on doors and selling vacuum cleaners or encyclopedias. And I'm like, I don't want that. Like, that's not me. I didn't realize that the commercials that I was watching on TV were actually sold by somebody, right? And so as I started to learn about what the job would entail, I thought it was a great opportunity for me to kind of be exposed to something that I never even considered, and it was.
Now, growing up, what was some of your favorite music radio stations?
Ooh, I'd have to say, I grew up on radio, right? Like I think most of us did. Like radio was such a part of my life. Like when we would go to the beach, when we would go and hang out with friends, like music was such an important part of that soundtrack and listening to the personalities at that time. I think a big influence was when MTV came on board, which coincidentally was also Viacom. I just probably like most teenagers at that time was mesmerized by seeing the visual of what that soundtrack was. And so I would watch MTV religiously as most of my friends were watching at the same time, and we were just so influenced by that, right? From fashion to like the songs to the stories behind the songs, or at least the stories behind the videos. That had such an impact on me growing up.
Right. And me growing up, I my favorite radio stations were WWRL. They were playing all soul music,
Hmm.
Monday through Saturday and gospel on Sunday. And
Nice.
then later 107.5 and AM
Yes,
1190
107.5 is a great
W
station.
WLIB and their sister station, WLIB FM, changed the call letters to WBLS. So that's when we had Ken Spiderweb, Vi
Yes.
Higginson, and the late Frankie Crocker, I
Yes.
was influenced by doing this podcast. And Frankie would play anything. He didn't care if
Yes,
it
I
was
love that.
white or black or Latino or Asian or Caribbean or Native American or LGBTQ. It was like me growing up when I was listening to black radio, I would thought that all the artists that he played was all black.
Right.
But when I was
Yes.
watching American Bandstand and Soul
Hmm.
Train and the Midnight Special on NBC and NBC Saturday
Yeah,
Night Live
no,
and
I would
Solid
watch all that
Gold,
too.
I'll
I
be
loved
watching
American
all of.
Bandstand and Soul Train. Like I am a music lover. I grew up very much immersed in music. My dad would always play music all the time, like on the weekends. Like there was no TV when we were cleaning the house. It was like either he would put on his favorite albums or it would be the radio, and everybody would be like doing their thing, cleaning up. And I love all types of music. I particularly love music that makes you want to dance, but I love all genres of music, and so I hear you, Sam. I'm right there with you. To be able to listen to some of those stations that were playing so many different sounds, like that was really, again, peak radio, right?
Right. And who were your influences that had inspired you to get in to radio and TV, or should I say, the media industry?
Yeah. I think, again, I didn't realize it was a career path until I actually got in it. And then once I was there, I was so influenced by people like Robin Sloan, like Judy Turner, like Pearl Weiss Crawley, like just what struck me when I first got to CBS was that there were so many women in positions of power in radio, which at that time and even still today was like something that was not the norm. And so to see all these women in those power positions making decisions, it just left such an impression on me that I could also be that. And again, everybody that I kind of engaged with at CBS, I learned so much from so many different people, different things, right? Just kind of observing how they sold, observing how they carried themselves, observing how they made decisions. Too many to count, but like truly, like was so influenced by so many great people. But I would say if I had to name kind of like the biggest, it would be someone like Robin Sloan, who led the general sales team there. It was people like Judy Turner, Pearl Weiss Crowley, who showed me how to balance having a career with being a mother and a wife. It was people like Rich Landsman who showed me how to sell and the art of negotiation, and like watching them, and Paul Kieber, and Chris Donahue, just really having a front seat to that. Those were the people that once I was in media just had such a profound impact on me.
Now, I was looking at your LinkedIn profile, and I'm going to say this, and I quote: "Your power is in what you makes you different. As a Latina in the media industry, I've learned this lesson early on my career, oftentimes as the only woman of color in the room. I've learned how to turn my differences into advantages." That's a
Yeah,
wonderful quote right there, my friend.
thank
Describe it
you.
in your own words, and what does that mean, and what can be an uplifting for someone of color like you and me? How to get into that, and what does that mean?
Yeah, I think, listen, when I was growing up as a kid of immigrants, the message was really, or at least the message that I kind of absorbed, was I wanted to blend in, right? I didn't want to be different. I wanted to be just like every other American, whatever that meant, right? In my young minds, I just thought like I want to speak English. I want to have like, you know, the traditional household with like mom and dad, and dad was the main breadwinner, and like again probably the influences of TV. And so um I really just wanted to blend in. And at work, once I started my career, obviously it was very much a different environment, where I was usually somebody that was one of the few people of color, one of the few women of color. And so, again, I kind of wanted to blend in and not have that be kind of a differentiator. Like I wanted to pull my weight. I wanted to be an excellent salesperson. I wanted to, do my job and exceed. And to me, that meant not necessarily standing out as a woman of color. It was just me standing out as a business professional and as a sales executive. And so I kind of didn't want to be seen as a Latina per se. And I know that kind of sounds a little odd, but I really wanted to just be seen as a great salesperson, right? Not necessarily a great Latina salesperson. But it was throughout my career, and I've been doing this for well over thirty years now, is that I really saw that me having that dual culture, that dual worlds, if you will, of being able to be in, you know, the general market, right? Like the be an American, but then also to be very much a Latina and a Mexican American. It's only in the last probably 20 or so years that I really started to see that was really such a blessing, right? Because I can play in both arenas, right? Like having two cultures, understanding what it is to be a Hispanic as well as an American, right? And understanding the beauty of both cultures and bringing those together to kind of meld into my own culture is a beautiful thing. And it actually makes me stronger because I understand what it's like to be an immigrant or child of immigrants, right? Where I'm translating things for my parents, right? Helping them navigate this new culture. But I'm also ingrained in, like, I love the music, right? I love Duran Duran growing up. I love Menudo growing up. I could do both, right? And so to me, the lesson now, all these years later, is that differentiation is actually something that I should embrace, right? And something that we should all embrace. And I think people coming up now, like, the Gen Zers coming up now into the career space, they are embracing their differences. They are embracing what makes them as that unique quality that makes them stand out. And so I love that. I wish I would have done it sooner, right? Different time. But I do think, like, as people of color, of people that are bicultural or multicultural, right? Because certainly I have friends who have married and, like, their kids are, different cultures, different ethnicities, right? My children are Mexican, Puerto Rican, right? We're continuing to be more diverse. I think it's just a beautiful thing to bring in those experiences into the workplace because it does make you stronger, right? It helps you understand different perspectives, different ideas, different behaviors that are motivated by culture, which I think is very much now, the general market, right? Because most of us are not homogenous, if you will. Most of us are not just one culture. And I think that is definitely a superpower today.
Right. Now, that's a powerful testimony right there because we, as people of color, as an African American, and you're a Latina, we all face these challenges. It's like the old saying,
Absolutely.
we don't see us on TV. I said, how come there's no black person or Latina person on
Right. It's
TV?
definitely getting better though, Sam. It's definitely getting better, but we
Yes,
still have a ways to go for sure.
right. Because me growing up, we didn't see anybody that looked like us, whether it's on comedy or drama
Hmm.
or anybody reporting the news or anybody doing sports. But there was
Right.
something that my late mother had shared something with me. And even though my mom wasn't into sports, but her first husband, my late father, he was a
Mm,
Met fan. And my maternal grandparents, they were Met fans. But before they were
nice.
Met fans, they were Brooklyn Dodgers fans.
Gotcha.
But there was something that she shared with me back in 2017 before she passed away in 2017.
I'm sorry to
They
hear.
will not watch any sports team unless you have someone of color on
Nice.
that field.
And
Now,
sports feels like that is very doable because there are many of us in sports, which is great. So I love that. Yeah, no. I mean, the biggest example probably was me growing up. I loved Barbies. I was obsessed with Barbies. Barbie had blonde hair, blue eyes. She was perfect. And I very much absorbed that this was the ideal beauty, right? And I wanted to be like Barbie. And my mom would be like, well, that's, you know, not you, right? You don't have blonde hair or blue eyes. But for many years, I idealized that because that's the only doll that I ever played with, right? And now you have all these different dolls that represent so many different colors and hair types, and I think that's just a beautiful thing. It has gotten way better than when we were younger, and certainly our predecessors, but I think we still have a long way to go for sure.
Yeah, that is true. Really true. Now, let's talk about your days as a senior account executive at WCBS News Radio 880 AM. How many years have you been at CBS News Radio 880?
So I was at CBS 20 years and 11 months to be exact, if we want to be exact. I left a week shy of my 21st anniversary.
And what were some of the accomplishments have you done at WCBS News Radio 880?
Ooh, um my memory is not long, but I do remember some key moments of my sales career there. And literally I built a list for myself because when I got promoted from assistant to account executive, which never really happened in a big market like New York, it was great because I was promoted, which was such a high, but that quickly became a reality check because it was basically like, okay, here you go, here's the phone book. Good luck. Try to generate new business. And I had never sold anything. And so I started off pretty much with no list. And in that first year, I was able to grow a nice foundation for myself with a few clients. So that was kind of the beginning for me. And so I'm really proud that I was able to kind of build something from nothing. Another standout for me that first year was one of the great things about working at CBS is that they really fostered creative selling. At that point, CBS News Radio 880 was not a gigantic ratings winner, right? We had CBS FM, which was like the golden child of the CBS radio network. And News Radio 880 was a fantastic station. It was definitely a heritage station, but it was not considered like a highly rated, like, FM station anyway. And so at that time, we really had to sell creatively, and we carried a lot of golf updates of major sports, major golf tournaments. And so I remember kind of my manager, Chris Donahue, telling me, like, let's try to think of this creatively, right? Like, let's look at where other brands are investing in sports and, like, let's try to pursue some of them. And so one of those was, and I'm blanking out on I should know the the accounting firm, but I don't off the top of my head. Again, senior moment. But I went after one of the premier accounting firms that was sponsoring the tournament itself. And so I reached out to many of them, and one of them actually returned my call. And I told them that we were also carrying updates of this tournament to a highly, qualitatively attractive audience that we reach at News Radio 880 if they wanted to sponsor it. And after much back and forth and meetings, they actually purchased a sponsorship. And I forget what the sponsorship amount was, but it was like a nice sum. It was like, I think it was either 25,000 or 35,000 over a 5-day period of that tournament. And it was the first time that they'd done any radio. It was just like this high of like, oh my God, I got this tremendous sponsor to do this sponsorship. And at that point, anything that came in direct was a big deal, right? It wasn't coming from an agency. It was actually coming from the advertiser itself. Which also meant that we earned a higher commission. So I remember, like, it was the biggest payday I'd ever had and probably did have that year. And it was a completely new advertiser to radio. So it was such an amazing experience to have early in my career. I think I was like 4 or 5 months in. So that was certainly a big deal. And I think just throughout my career, it was just really like bringing new advertisers to radio, really kind of selling creatively and conceptually. That has been like a hallmark of my career, is really leaning into that creative, because I love creative selling, right? It's one thing to sell on ratings. Like, yes, we are the highest rated show on TV. You should buy us, or on radio. You should buy us. But it's another thing to actually sell something creatively to a client because it meets their business needs and it reaches their audience. And so that really stands out from my career at CBS 880.
Now, to all of our listeners and viewers may not know what does radio and TV does, I have to ask you this question. What is an account executive and what does an account executive do?
Sure, great question. So, when you're listening to the radio, when you're watching TV and you hear those ads, somebody is selling those ads. And so, those are salespeople. And in media, they're usually called account executives, account directors, you know, any variation of that, but it's usually account executives. And so, they are the salespeople that support and bring in the dollars that help fund all the programming that you're seeing, pay for the news talent that you're seeing on air. Basically, the sales team is what keeps the radio stations, the TV stations running. So they play a really vital role in driving that business. And so they are the ones that bring in the advertising, right? They sell the ads that you hear and see.
Speaking of ads, every May when the LA folks come into town, and I see some of the CBS CEOs from LA, they come in every month of May for the upfronts. So when
Yeah, still a big
ABC
deal.
does theirs on Monday and NBC on Tuesday, CBS does theirs on Wednesdays at Carnegie Hall, and their sister network, UPN, now the CW, they do
Yes.
theirs on Thursdays at the theater at Madison Square Garden. All of the folks from LA, they come in and start up with the upfronts. They let us know what's coming on the new fall
Yeah.
season. What are some of the returning shows? What are some of the shows are not returning? And then you have to take care of the affiliates, or should I say, affiliate relations. And I wanted to share that to our audience. Affiliate relations is a department that takes care of small stations that is not owned by CBS or NBC or ABC or PBS or Fox. So these are some of the advertisers that want to find out what fits the show. If it fits for any product or show for prime time or daytime or late night, it fits. But if they have an episode, I'll give you an example, All in the Family, which we all know on CBS, which, yes, it was a groundbreaking series from Norman Lear.
Definitely
That brought
was.
us something that were taboo. When you hear subjects, was this dealing with race or was this dealing with women's issues? And now you're seeing gun control and the right to vote. It asks the question, either the network affiliates would either support the show or they pull out.
Mm.
So that was something that had been addressed during the 70s and up to now. If they are doing an episode coming from today's headlines, if it was a little controversial, it's up to the networks. They can pull it out or put something local station in for some of the local stations. So when I see those LA folks coming in and I see the new fall schedule, then I see, okay, you got your favorite show returning, and then your favorite show got, and what you're seeing now, if you got the LA folks coming in for the upfront. So if your favorite show is not on the fall schedule, it'll probably be the new home for streaming service. So
Mm.
when you got CBS at Paramount Plus, NBC has Peacock, ABC has Disney Plus, and Fox has Hulu. So if your show is not on the list, they'll probably move to a new home to streaming service. And like for example, I know all of you will be watching Days of Our Lives, and now it's not on anymore. So I tell them if you want to find out who did what on Days of Our Lives, you're gonna have to subscribe to Peacock. So like every May when I go over to my late mom's house for the cookout, Here, Mom, here's the schedule for the new fall season. Every night I'm like, yo, what happened to my favorite show? And everything.
That's
So
funny.
I remember when Damon Wayans was on Kiss FM during the morning show and
Oh, I
say,
didn't
I
realize
see
that.
that my wife and kids is off the show. And they said, well, what happened? And you know what,
I
in the
love My
words of
Wife and
Damon
Kids.
Wayans,
I love
he
that show.
said, Whitey. So I'll probably say, yeah, you've been watching American Idol and The Voice. So now you know if
Okay.
your favorite show was up against American Idol on Fox, and now American Idol got kicked by The Voice on NBC. So now you know it's the ratings game. Because when I go to the 24th floor research department, I would check out the ratings of saying who's watching this show and who's not watching the other show. And the same thing for news. Who's watching the news, whether it's CBS, mostly you got some of the seniors, and then
Mm,
you have NBC and ABC, you have some of the younger ones. So they go by the ratings and they go about who represents and then who brings in the dollars, just like you said.
yeah, no,
So
it's all
they,
about the money, Sam. It's
yep,
all about the money.
it's all about that. So I had to explain that to our audiences. They don't know what plays behind the scenes or,
Oh, yes.
what's
It's
not
called show
rolling.
business for a reason.
Now, let's talk about some of our memories at CBS. As I said early in the intro, I've been at CBS for 35 years at the Black Rock headquarters. I've been there when records were still in the building until they moved out in November of 92. And then when radio had moved out to the broadcast center, and there have been some changes. You had UPN moved in, and then by that time, when almost of 2020, TV City was sold, and then radio was sold to
Mm,
Intercom, then later changed its name to Odyssey. I was at a job fair in August, and then August of last year, and
mm.
then they were at the job fair at City College, and it was like Odyssey. So when
Yep, that's the
I
new
keep in,
name.
I kept in touch with Bill Tynan, and like after work, I would go upstairs and use Studio D.
Oh, okay.
So I keep in touch with him. He was telling me that Odyssey had filed Chapter 11 for bankruptcy.
Yes.
So it was like everything
They're
was
still running.
changing.
They're still running. They're still there.
Yes. So
Yeah.
like everything was all sold, radio was sold, then the pandemic hit, and then all of our CBS crew who had been laid off. And
Yeah.
I was
Hard times. It's hard times
scanning
for traditional media
and I
because
was
they're
scanning
being
I was
disrupted.
scanning email to everybody's homes and condos. And we didn't
Oh,
leave
wow.
until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then by on Fridays we leave at 2.
Okay.
And then by the start of the holidays from our then CEO from 2019 up until he was forced to be stepped down, it was Viacom CBS. So all departments, including us in the mailroom, we would leave at 1 o'clock from the start of Memorial Day to Labor Day.
Right.
But
During the
before
holiday.
that, we did not leave at 1 o'clock. So everybody else was leaving. For us in the messenger center and the mailroom, we had to stay until 4 o'clock. So it was like for last minute, anything that's coming in, they need it, or just leave it on the side until Monday. So that's we've been running for all of those years. And before I was a messenger, I filled an application as a videotape clerk at the broadcast
Mm,
center. So I didn't get that position. So
okay.
I ended up being a mail clerk and then a messenger, and then later moved up to messenger dispatcher, taking everybody's calls. So everybody wants to find out where's my package, Sam, and then depending on what carrier or the sender uses, if the sender uses FedEx or UPS or DHL, it depends on whoever is coming. I can't give you no quick answer. Only thing I can tell you is UPS and FedEx sends whoever they send on
Yeah.
their route. So when your stuff comes in, it will be coming in. but I can't give you the
I
time.
remember back in the day, we used to have to wait for the mail, even if it
Yeah.
was overnight.
Yes.
Patience is
So,
not a thing anymore, right?
yes. And it's like, especially when you order 5 boxes and you end up getting three. So I always ask FedEx Ground, say, what happened to the other two?
Oh
And
boy.
then the guy will say, another person is coming in with the
Uh,
other stuff. So you know everybody don't want to hear that.
yeah,
If
no,
everybody
that's
calls
the fun
me and
part of your
saying
job,
that,
for sure.
yeah, that's true, because when everybody calls me and saying, I got three, what happened to the other two? And I will have to tell them another FedEx person is coming by bringing the other stuff. So it's like that Apex commercial. Me growing up is like the old guy saying, I can't phone you. You have to
You
take
gotta
the
phone
first
us.
step and
Yes.
phone us. And I tell everybody, I can't give you, or I can't give you what type of product that you need to send out. I can't tell you which you want to use. If you want to use FedEx or UPS, I'm not telling you that. You have to find out for yourself and find out how much will it cost to send it out, UPS or FedEx or DHL. So it's like the same thing from the post office. I will have to tell everybody that if you're expecting something, you're going to have to put down the whole information, your name, your company name, the address, the floor, and everything. Because if you don't, that box or anything that you order is going to stay at the post office at another location until you have to figure out everything. And every time when the sender puts you on a speakerphone, it messes up your whole information. So I tell that to everybody, and even my supervisor tell that to everybody, but people still don't get the message when it comes
Yeah,
to
no, that is
getting
how it is,
everything.
Sam. That is the world.
Yes. So, have you kept in touch with some of your colleagues? You mentioned Robin Sloan. Have you kept in touch with some of the others?
I have. I kept with in touch with many. Dawn Ellison is a great friend of mine. I keep in touch with her. Judy, Maureen Fitzgerald, Caroline Riley, Dina Santa. I keep in touch with many of them, and I think that was the beauty of 880. There were so many tight relationships there that even if we're not speaking on the regular, like if we pick up the phone or run into somebody after a while, it's like you never left. And so there are many great friendships there. So absolutely.
Now, for me, I don't usually pick up the phone and keep in touch with anybody from CBS, whether it's coming to, hey, you got my package? Or like some other things. And every time I'll be out Friday nights, you never know who I might bump into.
Who
Say,
are you gonna run
hey,
into?
that's that guy who lost my package. And I was like,
So
oh
funny.
boy, yes. I've been lived with that all my life, ever since I've been with CBS. So every Friday night when I be out in an after work party, you never know
There
who I
you
may bump
go. You're
into.
important. You're important, Sam.
Yes. Listen, I've taken all the licks that I have taken for all those years. And I also keep in touch with Bill Daughtry, and he once lived in Co op City in the Bronx, which
Yes, no,
I
Bill
didn't
Daughtry and
know.
Carol,
Yes.
lovely people.
And yes, they were married at my church, Community
Oh, I
Protestant
never
Church.
realized that. Oh,
Yes, in Co op City. So I've been a member at CPC since 1978 of May. And then by 2001, my church moved out of Co op City, and my church moved up to East Gun Hill Road and Gunther Avenue. So we've been there by the time when the pandemic hit, and we've lost some of our members from COVID.
oh boy.
I've
Yeah,
lost three
no.
of my paternal cousins from COVID.
I'm
And
sorry.
then we had to call over the phone via conference call. Because, my
Yes.
pastor's not into Facebook or Zoom, because one of my cousins was asking me, do you have like an online service? And I said no, because
Uh,
we weren't up with the time. So by the time when we opened in 2021, we were coming in, but not every Sunday.
okay.
We would come in one time, we have all the seats, social distancing. So
Gotcha.
everything was back to normal in 2022, but we were still social distancing. And then the sad news was,
Yeah, no, that went on for a while.
And then the sad news is we had to sell the church and we moved
Oh,
back to Co op City. So we were keeping up with the times, and now my church is on YouTube. So hopefully
okay.
someday when I do like a podcast workshop, not only I would like to help my family relatives because I told them about my podcast, they love to hear it, but they don't know how to listen,
Okay.
and also help my church members because 70% of my church members are seniors. So
Uh,
they all got their smartphones, but I want to help them and to keep
yeah,
up with the
that's so nice.
times
Good for
because
you, Sam.
pretty soon you ain't gonna have them on black radio in the future. I can tell you that right now
I mean, everything
because
is going digital, right? I think it's
either
just,
everything is going digital or like some of the radio shows are on the internet and everything has been changing. And I mentioned Bill Daughtry. I interviewed him in season 3. And yes, after he left News Radio 880, he went to MSG, he went to
yes, Bill's had a
ESPN,
tremendous
and
career.
then he shifted gears to WBGO FM, and he's retired. I got in touch with him, so we keep in
Oh, that's
touch.
so great.
And also, I just interviewed Alicia Martinez Fidelman. She once was a desk assistant, but she came at the same time as I did. So,
Oh, I probably know her by face, but not by name, Sam.
yeah. So I kept in touch with her. I interviewed her last season. And yeah, we had a hard time getting onto the link, so I had to do it old school over the phone,
Uh,
like you hear on Sunday morning public affairs. So
yep.
if the guests couldn't make it to the studio, then we would do it over the phone. So I've done that for season 4, and I'll probably do it again. So season 5, which is we are season 5, we're trying to do something different.
Okay.
So
It's
just
always important to keep evolving, right? That's half the
yes,
battle.
and everything, and that's what it should be. And me growing up, when I see like it is with Gil Noble, he would travel in to interview other guests, whether it's at the restaurant or somewhere at the hotel or et cetera, et cetera. That's something that I would like to do. So in case if my guests had a hard time getting onto the link, whether it's in the Bronx or Manhattan or Brooklyn, Queens, or up in Westchester County, whether you live in Yonkers or Mount Vernon or New Rochelle, I will come and interview you. And that's
Got it.
something that I wanted to do a little experiment
You
for
should. You should do that.
season
That's amazing.
season 5.
Nice.
Now, yes. Now, after you left CBS, what other media companies have you worked at?
After I left CBS, I went to NBC Telemundo. I worked at the Telemundo local radio station for a little over a year. And then I moved to Pandora Streaming Audio, which was kind of my jump to the digital side. I knew that, if I wanted to have any sort of longevity, I needed to really be exposed to digital. And so I went to Pandora, and I'm so glad I did because not only did it teach me so much about digital, but it also prepared me for entrepreneurship, which I didn't know at the time, but that was going to be my next step after Pandora. So, again, keeping in touch with many of my CBS 880 folks, Kathy Murphy was somebody that I had reconnected with, and she brought me over to Pandora, and then she was making the move to Facebook, and I thought about joining her to Facebook, and during that process, she had a really vivid moment of like realizing that Facebook was not the place that she wanted to be at. And so she, being the friend that she was like, hey, listen, I'll help you come here, but I don't recommend that you come here. And so that kind of started the conversation of like, what were we going to do next? And, we really kind of just realized that we didn't necessarily want to go work for another media company. And the idea of starting our own agency was kind of something that we were kicking around and certainly was kicking around in my head for a while. And, he had seen other friends of ours and colleagues make that leap. And so we thought if they could do it, why can't we? And so we decided to start Venus Media 7 years ago, at another moment of kismet where it was really such a great learning turning point for my life as well.
Right. Now, if you heard that WCBS News Radio 880 went out of business from 2024, that's the same time that I was laid off at that same year for 35 years. And we just mentioned everything is changing. Everything corporate media is now shifting to the right and now kissing you know who, and everything is not the same anymore.
Yeah,
So,
no, the world is definitely going through
yes.
a big
So,
transformation.
yes. So, what's Sylvia Herrera doing now? You mentioned Venus Media, which I was going to ask you the next question.
Yeah,
That
no,
Venus,
Kathy and I are running Venus Media. We are a media strategy and buying agency based in New York City. Our expertise is in reaching diverse female audiences because women are making 85% of the purchasing decisions in our household. And really, by focusing on those diverse women who are so underserved, we feel that we will lift the boats of all women, right? Because they are so important. And, with the population becoming increasingly multicultural, we see this as a tremendous growth opportunity for brands, right? Again, having worked in the general market as well as the Hispanic market, you know, depending on the time of year or the year, right? Like it's either, yeah, we want to have a total market approach, right? So we want to reach everybody, right? So we'll just do it with this broad strategy. Then it shifts over to like, yeah, we want to have a Hispanic market strategy or a Black market strategy, and then a general market strategy. I think with digital, right, the promise of digital is to be able to deliver the right message to the right person at the right time. I think we're getting closer to that every year. And I think as part of that, it really is important to factor culture into that strategy, right? And culture is our operating system, right? So it not only is our ethnicity, it is what drives our behavior, right? So ethnicity is a big part of that, but it's also so many other different layers. And for us, being mindful of that cultural part, right? And leading with that in our media strategy is what makes us different, is what makes us successful. Because when we do that, we help our brands really resonate and connect with their consumer. And so that has been, again, just the most amazing ride for the past 7 years. And so, yeah, we've built an amazing company. It is primarily women. Our team is primarily women of color, multi-generational, multi-dimensional. And we have built the company that we wish we had growing up. And so, really proud of what we've done in the last 7 years with Venus.
you're the co-founder, correct? And
Yes.
okay, well, I see you building something on your own because I've been on the Alignable Network event meetings and I've been put into different chat rooms and LinkedIn too, and I see so many people who have worked in the corporate world.
Yeah.
Now they have left the corporate world and now they have their own business. It's just like me growing up,
Which
I'm
is
watching
so
all these
fantastic.
it's
Yeah.
like me growing up. I'm watching all these detective shows, Mannix, Cannon, Barnaby Jones, and Magnum, and Simon, and Jessica Fletcher.
Oh my
They
gosh,
all,
you're naming all
they've
these
all
shows.
worked. They've all worked in the corporate world. Now they have their own detective agency. So when I
Yeah.
was put into those chat rooms, it's for real. Everyone had worked in the corporate world. Now they have their own business. And same thing with so many singers. They're no longer on the major record labels. This
Right.
was when record labels have been merging before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and now post pandemic. I see that
Yeah,
Alicia
no,
Keys
everything
and
is being
Sheryl
transformed and
Crow,
disrupted.
they're no
Yeah.
longer on those major record labels. They have their own independent labels. So
Yeah,
they
no.
can collaborate, on who they can collaborate with without having the record CEO dictate to them and saying, like, you can't collaborate with that artist. They may have a problem with that, or you can't sing that song or anything. So now we seen that everything is changing, and hats off to you, my friend. You co-founded something that needs to be addressed for diversity and women. So I
Thank you, Sam. I
congratulate you.
appreciate that.
Now, uh, you've answered everything. I was going to ask you the next question, but you've answered everything. Now, if you wasn't an account executive, or if you wasn't working in the media, what would you be doing now?
Ooh, I don't know. Again, Sam, like, I do think everything happens for a reason. And like I said, when I started my career, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I stumbled upon sales and it has turned into being such a huge blessing in my life. I would say, if I had pie in the sky, something that would, really focus on mentorship. Like I try to do some of that now. It's really important for me to help bring in more diversity into media, right? Again, being one of the few people of color, women of color in many sales teams. Like I want to bring more diversity and bring this industry and the opportunity that it can provide to people of color to consider, right? Because I think especially when you're coming from working class backgrounds, like the goal is usually, hey, be a doctor, be a lawyer, be a nurse, be a teacher, secure roles, right? That offer pensions or a great opportunity to build a really wonderful life, and those are great roles to have. But I think media is something that's equally, and sales is something that's equally exciting and offers an opportunity for growth and to build wealth in a different way, right? A little bit more riskier in that sales jobs usually are more commission based, but still a great opportunity to be exposed to different people, different companies, and a great way to make a living.
There's something I wanted to share with you before I ask the next question. And me growing up, I didn't know what I wanted to be in life. And then when I was in D.C. funeralizing my late paternal grandmother back in 1983, Mother's Day, I was listening to WPFW FM. That's PBS affiliate in D.C. And they were playing all the Mother's Day songs. And then
Okay.
I said to myself, wouldn't we have our own black oldie station in the NYC be doing that? And when I told my mom that I wanted to be in the media and be in radio broadcasting, my late mother thought that I was nuts. She was just concerned about, does it pay you? Do you
Yeah,
get like
that's
Social Security? Does it help you take care of the
security.
rent
You
and
need security.
everything? And just like you said earlier, those other jobs that you just mentioned, the pay is good, but maybe that's not our field. But there was something that we will always dream of something. It's kind of like making sure that you're financially strapped. But, media was my first choice. And after I graduated from Truman, I went to Center for the Media Arts on West 26th Street
Mm.
between 7th and 8th Avenue. The school is no longer there, but it was used to be right across the street where our CBS studio used to be for taping
Okay.
for some of the other CBS shows. And that was way before we took care of Rachel Ray. And that was on that block as well.
Oh my
So
gosh,
my
yeah.
first choice was radio broadcasting, but I got turned down by it. So my second one was graphic art and design
Oh,
because
nice.
my late paternal uncle, he was an outstanding drawer. He drew. And he once worked at an advertising agency that was founded by the daughter of the late Chico Marx of the Marx Brothers, Groucho, Harpo. and Zeppo, just to name a few. But, I was just joining it for fun, just to relieve the stress and everything. I'd be drawing some billboards that I see every day, whether it's on I
Nice.
87 Deegan Expressway back then, or those warehouse buildings now. Now, today, it's just apartment condos
Yeah.
on East 135th and Bruckner Boulevard and Willis Avenue. But back then, they all had lots of billboards, including this big billboard. They had a clock in the middle, and it was Seagram's. They would have that billboard.
Gotcha.
So, I wasn't thinking about getting into it, and I'm not that good as my late paternal uncle. I don't have the magic like my late paternal uncle, and I don't have the magic like many others that worked in everything. Use something that God gave you with these hands. Use your time and your talent. If you're good at something, you can achieve and believe.
There
And
you
I
go,
just,
Sam.
and
Love
that's
that.
what I did. I did radio broadcasting. People love my voice and everything. And
Yeah, you
yes,
have a great voice.
thank you. And yes, I did have a second job at WVOX AM 1460 New Rochelle back in 1995 when I heard that CBS had sold to Westinghouse. And I said, let's get a backup plan because in case if I got laid off in 1995, then I got my backup at WVOX. So I was there from 1995 until I was let go in October 1998. And everything was changing in radio itself as well. Unfortunately, that station went out of business in 2023.
Mm.
The owner passed away in 2022, and I was up there on Juneteenth of 2024. I took a picture of that building for the last time. Everything has been taken down, all the call letters and everything. So that was something that I had started at my big break on the weekend
Nice.
shift.
Good for you, Sam.
Thank you. Now, here's a question that I always ask my guests: living or dead? Which singer you wish you wanted to meet or like do a commercial since you once worked at CBS and other media companies?
Ooh, that's a great question. I guess I was obsessed with Duran Duran growing up, so I would say Simon Le Bon or the whole band. I also love George Michael. I think contemporary is Beyonce. I'm obsessed with her, as anybody close to me can attest to you. I think she's just beyond. And so, yeah, those are some of the artists that just have a special place in my heart.
All right. Now, here in the Black Soul Music Experience, I always ask my guests who are the top 10 R&B black artists of all time. Now, since I have you, Sylvia, and since we are celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, we're about to do the top 10 Latina and R&B black artists of all time. Now, here's
Oh,
how it
okay.
works. We do it like the show America's Top 10, hosted by the late Casey Kasem. We
Okay.
start at the bottom five and we figure out who was the best singer but didn't get any recognition. In other words, they were good,
Ooh,
but they weren't marketed or promoted from the record companies that they were on. And
okay.
when we get to the top five, then we figure out who was the best artist of all time with the million selling albums of all time. Did that artist had their top 10 number one hits? Did their albums sold gold or platinum or double platinum or triple platinum or today's platinum? Did that artist receive an American Music Award or a Grammy Award or a BET Award or a Soul Train Award or an MTV VMA Award? Did
Mm.
that artist got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Or did that artist perform at the American Bandstand or Soul Train or the Midnight Special or NBC Saturday Night Live or
Wow,
Solid
this is gonna
Gold
be tough, Sam. I hope
or
you have a cheat sheet there, because I.
yeah, yes. And did that artist have their primetime special on CBS or NBC or
Okay.
ABC? Or did that artist performed on PBS, whether it's great performances or did they had their show during Pledge Month? Or did they have that live concert
All
special
right. All
on
right. Let's do
HBO
it. Let's
or
do it.
Showtime? So let's do it. So who should be at number 10?
Latino for me?
Yes.
Ooh, I would say Bad Bunny. I'm gonna start off with the contemporary first because I think like he is just someone who has made such a mark in such a short amount of time.
Yes, Bad Bunny. Yes, started in reggaeton and everything. He's
Yep,
doing
no, I think
well.
he is somebody that is
Best-selling
transcending.
singles on iTunes. And yes, one time he was performing on NBC Saturday Night Live and performed in
Yep, no.
different skits as well. So we'll put Bad Bunny at number 10. And who should be at number 9?
Ooh, Sam, I didn't realize you were gonna ask me this tough ranking here. Number 9, and it could be soul too.
Yes.
Uh, I mean, Diana Ross is somebody that I have long admired and think she's just amazing.
Okay, we'll put Diana Ross at number 9. Started
Okay.
off with the Supremes as a lead singer from its inception, and then
Yeah,
left
no, I
in
mean, she's got too many things to
1969,
too
1970.
many accomplishments to list.
Solo hits Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Touch Me in the Morning, Theme from Mahogany, Love
Yep, no, she's
Hangover,
amazing.
Endless Love, made her acting debut in Lady Sings the Blues, nominated for an Oscar, but
Oh
then
my
lost it to
gosh.
Liza Minnelli. She had appeared in so many specials. She had her special Diana on ABC with Danny Thomas in 1971 and
Oh
had
my gosh,
another
you're taking it back.
primetime
Sam, we
special.
got to speed through this because I have a hard stop in like 10 minutes. So
Okay, we're
sorry
going to
about
speed
that.
it up. All
Let's
righty.
speed it up. My
Okay.
eighth would be Stevie Wonder. Let's stick with soul for a bit.
Okay.
And obviously, he's such an icon.
Uh-huh.
Number 7, I would say, is Juan Gabriel, who's like a Mexican crooner. And he was like such a part of my growing up. Like, even though I didn't necessarily listen to his music regularly, it was when I got
Mm-hmm.
older that I started appreciating his music. And he's somebody that has been just like a huge touchstone, especially for Mexican
Mm-hmm.
Mexican folks.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jose is somebody else that my parents would always listen to. He was also another crooner who was just amazing, and his voice was just, it was, just transformative. And so I loved listening to him.
Okay.
Again, I'm going to say Beyonce. She is amazing, and I absolutely love her music, but I also appreciate how she changes culture, how she
Mm-hmm.
impacts culture, what she does, everybody else follows.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love her for that. I think, I'm trying to think of who else right now, Latina or soul. I think, Latina or soul.
Want to put J Lo at number 4?
Yeah, I guess we can put her on the list. You know what? Lo, I don't necessarily think of as being a musician. I think of her as more of an entertainer. And she's so multifaceted, and she's an amazing artist. But sure, we could put her on there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think of who else. Number 3 would be trying to think of some bands. I think Menudo was a band that again had such an impact on me growing up. Like they
Mm-hmm.
were our Beatles, so I would say
Mm-hmm.
that is number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And number one, I would say, who would be number one? Who would be number one? Um, so there was this female singer, her name was Ana Gabriel, or she's still, I
Hmm.
mean, she's still around, but she was also somebody that from a very young age, my parents used to listen to. She just has a beautiful voice. She transcends generations for Hispanic people, and so she's just one of those artists that is timeless.
Okay, alrighty. So that's a good mix right there. So we have our top 10 Latina and R&B black artists of all time. Well,
Yes.
Sylvia, thank you so much for being here
Thank
on the
you,
Black
Sam.
Soul
It was
Music
so nice
Experience
to reconnect with
podcast.
you.
Yes, and please come on back. We always like to keep in touch with some of our folks from
Yes.
CBS
And Sam, you are
because
one of those CBS people that we don't talk often, but like truly every time I get a note from you or like a text and you're like, "Hey, just checking in." And I'm just so happy to see that. And I'm happy to see that you're doing well and you're still Sam. And so truly so nice to see you.
okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Sam. Have
Download
a great one.
Okay. Download all the artists that we have talked about on this edition of the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. Visit iTunes.com, Spotify.com, or purchase a CD at Amazon.com. Make sure you look for Venus Media. Look for them on Facebook and Instagram and
Yes.
LinkedIn. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to check out this episode, please subscribe by going to riverside.fm/studio/Samuel Wilson Jr.'s. Don't forget to add the S to the end studio. I will be posting this episode on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And if you have a hard time getting on to those platforms, become a member, subscribe to patreon.com/the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. And if you have a hard time getting on the Patreon, then I will be posting this episode on YouTube. Go to youtube.com/the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. If you love this episode, if you love my podcast, please subscribe, please support, please give me a thumbs up, and please pass it on. Thank you for joining me as I close out this edition of the Black Soul Music Experience. Well, that's about it for this edition of the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. I'm Sam Wilson Jr. Thank you for joining me, and please tune in next week for an all-new episode. The Black Soul Music Experience podcast is sponsored by the support of listeners and viewers like you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe by going to riverside.fm/studio/Samuel Wilson Jr.'s studio. And don't forget to check out my audio and video podcast episodes by becoming a member and subscribe to patreon.com/the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. And also check out my video podcast episodes by subscribing to youtube.com/the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. And please leave your comments, feedbacks, and replies by going to my Facebook homepage. Visit facebook.com/the Black Soul Music Experience podcast. You can also tweet me on X, aka Twitter, at Sam Wilson Jr. 66. As always, partying, remember this. Reach for the top and your dreams will come true, and it can happen to you. From all of us, take care. God bless. Thanks for listening. Have a good week, and please be safe.